And we might be live.
Hey,
What's up, Matt? Thanks for doing this.
yeah, man. It's cool to finally be on here, actually. I've seen so many of them.
I know I have an explanation as to why it took me so long to ask you to do this.
Oh,
I
yeah?
had you I was thinking like you were one of the first guests that I wanted to have on, but then I figured, you are the one guest that I would be able to count on for technical ability. So if I ran into an issue, like I could be like, hey, Matt, like last minute, like, is there any way, and anyway, then time got away and here we are.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
So I am excited to finally get a chance to talk to you because we haven't really chatted since the window film convention.
Yeah, I know. I would have figured we would have been on the phone for hours by now, but yeah. I mean, and we have a lot that we can talk about, really, too, even with
And
just like the live streaming stuff.
I know that's where a lot of this is going to go. So
Okay.
um, first and foremost, it looks like it is working. So this is the first for everybody. This is the first Tint Wisdom where we're streaming it live from Facebook, and then we're also streaming it live from our YouTube channel. So a lot of
Oh,
people,
awesome.
yeah, a lot of people watch and they don't know that they can watch on YouTube, and then watching videos on Facebook that are like older or longer is kind of annoying.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna share it with my group too. Which is cool. Yeah, I got on the restreaming life a little bit ago, and it's been incredible. I always put so much work into YouTube, but pulling in a couple of sponsors and not have to being so dependent on trying to push everybody there, now it kind of lets me be a part of everybody else's conversation wherever else it's happening, because people, when they're on a platform, they usually don't move to another platform.
right, exactly. So where should we start? Face or YouTube is where I first, became aware of you before I ever got to meet with you or speak with you. And your YouTube channel, I've spoken about it a lot, but like it is crazy impressive. So
Oh, thanks.
over 60,000 subscribers and about
Yes.
180 videos,
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah.
growing extremely quickly over the last few months.
Yeah, it's been doing pretty good. It usually gets a boost around this time of year anyways, but there's like a handful of different types of videos that help. I have like two modes. I have like my in-depth mode that is very tuned to the people that are trying to learn how to tint, and then I have like the marketing stuff that you have to be a little bit more, I guess, a little bit more of a meme, a little bit more broad, and that those videos just do a lot more as far as outreach and growing the channel and stuff. So
And by
it's
marketing,
been
you
a journey.
mean like marketing kind of for your channel or
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so YouTube's. I wish it was a place where you really could post whatever you want, and on some level you can. But that's with window tinting, when you're trying to actually grow it as a channel, you have to kind of play to topical stuff. And window tinting is very niche, so you have to find ways to, be creative with it to branch out. So that's where like the Walmart stuff came from, and like messing around with Amazon, and I'd get so many questions about, whether it be Lexan film or this film off of whatever eBay, or stuff like that. When you make videos like that, it does a lot better.
Yeah, so that Walmart video you're talking about, that was how to tint windows with like nothing other than what you can buy at Walmart, right?
Yeah, yeah. I went to Walmart for like 2 or 3 hours and literally walked up and down every aisle of one of the local ones and just saw what I could get.
And is that
So,
your best video, best not best video necessarily, but most viewed video?
no, no, not even close.
Really? So
The
how many views did it get approximately?
That one did a little under, I think it stopped somewhere along a million, just under that. But the most popular is the one that I made years ago, How to Tint a Door Window. It's like by far the most recommended, which is funny too, because it's got one of the, this is before YouTube even let me choose what thumbnails I could have. It would just auto pick one in the video. And How to Tint a Door Window has been by far the most successful. That's got over, shoot, probably about 5 million views at this point, but that was made way back when. Some of them there was another one that I made that was a little bit funny. I was just goofing off, wanted a backup camera for my wife's car, and made a silly video and then tweaked the title a little bit, and that thing is still pulling in probably about, I don't know, about 20,000 views a day, I think is what it's doing.
So I think I know the video you're talking about, and
Yeah.
it's the one where I mean, you drilled an extra hole in your trunk, right?
Yeah.
So like to me, that's funny twice because when I was watching it, I saw that and I was like, to me that would be like my worst nightmare. Why I wouldn't want to do it myself is risk of drilling an extra hole. But then beyond that, you posted it, you make it a video, and like you're saying, it's a incredible video. You weren't like, oh, this wasn't a perfect how-to. You didn't like lie about it or hide it. Like there's a lot of things that
No.
come into your mind when that happens. Like,
Yeah, I've done that for so long with a lot of my just tint videos. When you make a mistake, you restart or you move past it, and then you just kind of edit that part out in a way that still gets your message across. Because it's not about, when you're trying to do a how-to, you're not trying to show all the little things that can go wrong. You're trying to you usually try and keep things to like 10, 15 minutes and be very concise about what you're doing. And then when you edit it all down into like, you're finally taking all my jumbled thoughts anyways, trying to arrange them in a timeline that actually makes sense, and then put it all together and post it. But that one, I was actually trying to more fill time than anything else, because you can make a little review about it, but to me, just being very simple and like, oh, this is what it is, and you point and literally like, this is the thing, and then this is the other thing, and it was like, I went to have a little fun with it. So I did, and yeah, the reception on that was very mixed. My audience thought it was funny, but then when it branched out into like the mainstream, that's where it really got like, oh man, I got so many comments about that. It was really crazy, but a lot of fun.
One of the comments in this chat was, Carrie, and Carrie mentioned that, YouTube comments are savage. The comment section in YouTube are savage. So like, I know that to be true. What's your experience with that?
Yeah, believe it or not, they've gotten better. So there's levels to YouTube comments. They used to just be 100% trash, and the rule of thumb was just you never read your YouTube comments, because whatever that you put hard hours into is just 100% worthless. But over the years, they've gotten better. They've have an algorithm to kind of push some more to the top that are a little more positive. They'll hold some reviews that are just flat out trashing you. But overall, lately, there seems to be like when those comments are hitting your own audience, they know who you are, and YouTube has grown up quite a bit. So they're generally more positive when you make something that you want to make, or something that seems to do reasonably well. But then when you start branching out in probably about 500,000 views to like 1 million, that's where you start hitting more mainstream, and the mainstream is absolutely savage. They do not care. They don't know who you are. They don't know what you're doing. And if whatever you're doing looks different from what they're used to, they'll just pick you apart because they got nothing better to do. But whenever I've gotten a severe amount of hate, I kind of know that I'm doing something right. As weird as that may seem, you're always kind of going against the grain. When you have something that's like as perfect as it possibly can be, the comments generally will be very minimal, and they'll be like, neat, cool, awesome work, great. And then that's it. There's no conversations. There's nowhere you can go. But when you make something that kind of creates more of a conversation, even if it's negative, it actually helps more than it hurts.
So does that then kind of push you towards kind of trying to game that system and try to get a reaction out of people sometimes?
I never went the full like Logan Paul and just tried to create a rise. I think that mirror video was as much of a meme video as I've gone, which is pretty lighthearted. I know drilling a hole a handful of times into a trunk, but like literally if I zoomed out a little bit, you'd see a giant hole in the bumper already. Like it's just it was a cheap low miles car to just run errands. I don't give like two shits about what happens with that car. So that's where it's like some people look at that and be like, oh my God, what did you do? And it's like, dude, this is my daily driver here. I care more about this one, but I don't know. It's cosmetic. Nobody's looking at that car. Nobody cares.
No, I get it. It's just one of those things that like hurts your heart when you see it happen. You're just like, oh, there's a hole there now. But like you said, what's the big deal?
Yeah, so I thought about editing that particular part out, but if you look in the video, I actually edited it in a string, so you could see every time that happened, just one after the next after the next. I could have skipped right over it, but I felt like the more it happened, either the funnier it was, and it may or may not have played well depending on who watched it. But yeah, overall, it was just fun. I don't know. I've never done anything intentionally to like play that reaction thing, but more in the lines of things that play well in search is what I've gone after with when I'm really trying to outreach a video.
So, obviously we're coming off this whole like lockdown and quarantine thing, and it's a
Yeah.
time where like something like you having a YouTube channel, because it's I imagine a stream of revenue, whether the biggest or the smallest, it's still a stream of revenue. So I guess I want to talk about where you're at as far as you tint windows, you have this extremely successful YouTube channel.
Uh-huh.
Your audience on YouTube to me comes across more towards like other tinters per se. Like you're not like branching off to like, hey, I'm Matt, like check out my life, or it's really tint related, and it's not necessarily like towards your future customers.
Right.
Like so I'm curious, do you get a lot of customers from those videos regardless, or like what are your thoughts as far as how you divide your ambitions towards getting more cars and more business and more of like that physical brick and mortar, and then where you see like, well, there's the whole digital end of it that avoids that headache and is
Right.
awesome. you know
When I first started making videos, it was just 100% because I liked YouTube, and I wanted to be somewhat of a YouTuber, not necessarily a tinter. But window tinting is the only thing that I really knew how to do, that I felt I could make videos about, and everything went in with kind of a purpose. And then I never wanted brick and mortar. Period. I like tinting. But I don't want to handle customers. I don't want to handle paperwork. I don't want to handle any of that. I want to tint the car. I want to YouTube, and that's it. And I thought I could make that work. But more and more as the years went on, I found out that, like, I see it now with this space. Having your own space where you have control of your own time is the only really way, like, only real way to make it all work. Um, Growing the channel, trying to be, just a how-to channel for window tinters and stuff like that is kind of where I wanted to go, because I wanted to be more of a teaching platform than anything else. And there's not a great crossover. So really, when I opened this space up, like I heard. I didn't have anywhere to send people before. Now I do, but I would hardly ever get any inquiries whatsoever because most people didn't know where I was. And I did that somewhat purposefully, but if anybody asked, I'd try and refer them to like a shop kind of near me. But that was kind of, I mean, YouTube's very global, so I didn't think YouTube was the place that I would go to try and build any type of a local business. I figured Facebook would be much better for that, or some other platforms would be better for it. But it was not at the front of my mind at all to try and build. So now that I actually have my own space, I thought about integrating both of them in some way, and I'm starting to do that a little bit. With the recent titling on the videos, whenever I go live, I add Detroit Tint Studio to the end of that title. But that's about as far as it goes. I made a new page. I made a new logo. People that are coming from basically finding that page don't know anything about me whatsoever. And I kind of like it that way. Like I like them to see what I'm doing here and everything. But the part that I like separating right now is I don't want to try and leverage or give the impression that the reason that I can make this place what it is because I have some sort of an audience already. I want to be able to show people that, no, you can go in this with no Facebook page, no presence, no local, whatever, and then still grow your own thing. So I thought that was really important when I was making this from the ground up, because I could have called it like Tint Stuff Studio or something like that, or Tint Stuff Shop, and then put a YouTube logo and try and integrate the two and make videos and stuff like that. But really what I've ended up doing was making content that suits my last couple of videos, is a direct reach to both audiences. Stuff that I feel like would be helpful to a customer, and then stuff that would also be helpful to my YouTube audience. So like factory matching window tint. And what was the other one? I'm drawing a blank here. What did I make recently? Whatever it was, that was, oh yeah, the carbon comparison. I've had hundreds of requests to talk about Lexan, and that's a cheap carbon film. And now I have GeoShield C2, that's a more expensive one. So let's just do a comparison. I'm sure my customers would want to know what the difference between the eBay or Amazon stuff is and the better stuff. And it's cool too, because this actually worked out better for me. My last 2 jobs have been carbon, so it's been a lot of fun mixing those 2 worlds.
So, do you think? Okay, so you're the first of all, you are enormous inspiration to this channel. Patrick's mentioned that you are enormous inspiration to him and his channel, and like Sean from Window Tint Warriors, same thing. So, whether you like it or not, you're inspiring a lot of people to do videos, and
that's good.
Right, and like you're that awesome, nice type of guy that like you're pro that, obviously. Do you think what you're doing may be, or maybe like a rough outline, or maybe a lot of like what may be the future of a tint shop? Maybe somebody's coming up and they're saying, hey, I'm looking to get into tint, and it's not going to be that conventional way. It's going to be more of what you're doing.
I definitely think so. I think if you're building a business in this day and age, you're shooting yourself in the foot if you're not making videos, or you're not posting, or you're not doing any of that. Look at, if you just do a broad search in your area and you're looking for one of those services type things, and you see somebody doing something incredibly creative and different, or posting even as simple as posting lots of pictures about their work, they show that they care. You're going to naturally want to go there. So I kind of go at the hard end of the spectrum with all the live streaming and stuff. I don't expect that to be something that most people do. But at the very least, you have a camera on your phone. You can clean up your place a little bit, and then you can just make a simple video, a genuine video, about the things that you install, and just go from there. Because on my page, I have literally like 50, 60 likes at this point. I paid $200 in advertising costs to Facebook and messed around with some Facebook ads. And it took a little bit of time trying to generate some leads. But the things that I would push, like I pushed basically a couple pictures, I pushed a live stream, and then I pushed a 10-minute video that I made, one of the ones that I made. And then that started to really grab some people's attention, and they're just like, wow, I never knew the difference, or, you seem pretty credible, or, I just started getting inquiries because I was putting information in front of people about what I was doing, and they were interested enough to see it. So I 100% think that needs to be the case. You need to be pushing this, like you need to be making content around what you do. And I don't know, I could go on and on. Window tinting, some people may do it every day and think that it's relatively boring, monotonous, but everything I think becomes that way. If you do one thing consistently, what you see is very different from what new people end up seeing. And window tint's like this fast turnover thing where you have new cars, you changing the look of them as far as the windows go, and you can just, you can turn it into a show. It's this perfect time slot of like, hey, start to finish takes me on the regular about, an hour to an hour and a half. That's a good time to just run a podcast live stream type show. So that's what I decided to do with that finally.
And a couple things just to point out here. You mentioned you don't have to go live streaming. Live streaming's like an impossibly difficult setup that you've mastered for what you're doing.
Still working on it.
And I think it kind of it fits your DNA because it's the same, it fits in with what you just said about, hey, you could have leveraged your channel for your customers in your new business, but you went the opposite route and you're like, I'm not going to leverage. Like you tend to take on a challenge.
A little bit. The
It seems like.
if Yeah, because the there's different ways. So when you're growing an audience, when you're growing a channel, this is something that happened a little bit more recently, and that's what is the point of the growth? If I'm at 60, if I'm at 100, if I'm at 2 million people, at the end of the day, what is the point of that audience? Because when you start looking past all the numbers, views, like, because you get to this point where your numbers, you always want to kind of beat whatever you did last. But then it's this endless game of when you put in all this time to make a video and people go, oh, cool. Like, other than popularity, what are you really accomplishing? Paying the bills, of course, is a big part of it. But with the live streams, it's kind of going all the way back at the other side of the spectrum as far as their live streams in general just aren't as clickable as a video, and they're not as condensed. They're very long format. So you're really capturing like a very hardcore audience when you're doing live streams. But it's this cool way to, just have a better impact and actually answer questions. And at the end of the day, with growing a window tinting channel, like, we're helping people build businesses and freedom with their, this is still a cool field that you can get into relatively quickly and with pretty low cost and actually make a good living off of it. Like, sky's the limit, really, your own potential. I mean, there's a ton that you can do with it. And as far as the other YouTube channels that are out there, there's a huge range of stuff that you can do, but I'm huge into technology, which is obviously one reason you see this live stream thing being a thing anyways for window tinting. I mix the best of those worlds, but the reason I didn't go full tech YouTuber is because, like, I don't want to just keep building computers and showing off tech, because yeah, it's a cool thing you can have, but when you can like actually take the cool thing that you have and then make money from it and make a living, that I think is, to me, what really, I don't know, I like that a lot more.
100%. I mean, I think making a living, like, it's almost like every video you put out there is like a fishing hook, and some of them are going to catch you fish forever. And it, to me, like, my mind then goes like, oh, if you could do this, then why can't you do 10 times that, and then 100 times that, and like 1,000 times. Keep adding zeros to the amount of views and revenue, and like, So other than YouTube, have you like dipped your toes in like Twitch, or is there you're pretty focused on YouTube from what I've seen? What are your thoughts with that?
Sorry, let me adjust this. Oh man. So this, my mind just starts spinning. So I obsess over all of this. That's one reason it is what it is right now, and it's only going to get better. That's why we have 3 cameras. So Twitch is actually not doing a whole lot of things right, and I was at this point where I was trying to decide between streaming on Twitch and streaming on YouTube, because YouTube is very video on demand, and Twitch is like, everybody knows Twitch. Who knows Twitch knows it for live streaming. That's what it's for. There's a lot of things I like about Twitch, but I came across this awesome marketer who sold a couple of businesses, and he's a live streamer. He's been live streaming since like 2012, but he's not a game live streamer. He was at one point, and then because he started working on like the esports side of things, started talking about behind the scenes and marketing information, because he's on the agency side, and he does so much with agency deals and stuff like that. He started giving out all this advice and what he recommends for new streamers, new content creators, and whatever. So he broke down the platforms basically. When you take the sheer user base that's on Twitch, and the one that's on YouTube and the one that's on Facebook, Twitch is incredibly small in comparison to all of them. And Twitch's problem is there's no discovery. So if you want to make a discoverable audience on Twitch, you have to make content elsewhere and then advertise your Twitch channel. And I never liked the way that sit, because when you have to put all your eggs into other platforms to grow one that's innately not discoverable, what happens with all that content if that platform just, isn't what it's cracked up to be anymore? So you have all those videos, and then people go there, and you're no longer there anymore, and you can't change your old content. So YouTube started, I think YouTube is actually starting to push live streaming a little more. So this goes into some recent esports news. If you know, I'm sure you've heard of Ninja. He's pretty popular in the esports thing. He got picked up by Mixer. Mixer's owned by Microsoft. Well, they actually, this is I know this is a long answer, but they basically started this whole trend of platforms starting to pick up live streamers, and YouTube did it with a couple, and Facebook has done it with a couple. And Facebook and YouTube have these big audiences that they can just, at the change of an algorithm, start pushing live content a little bit more. And a handful of years ago, video was the hot topic, but now live streaming is starting to become more the hot topic. And these big players, they just want to be known as the all-encompassing platform for everything. So I think you're gonna start seeing them pushing live streams more. So while they're a little bit smaller now and they still are very focused, I think they're gonna start making them just bigger entirely. So that's why I ended up just sticking with YouTube. I kind of I think hit the lottery on starting with YouTube for video years ago, and then I always just stuck with it because that's the one I thought that's where I was, that's where I like to be, and it's now growing even more than it was before. So
what would you recommend to somebody that probably in the window tinting industry, given a video that does not have a YouTube channel, or maybe just has a couple of videos that they've put up there? They're just about to they're just essentially getting started. What would you say some key things that are going to be a big part of their success that are relatively easy to implement?
Video. Just get a camera, start filming stuff for yourself, and titles. Put effort into a good thumbnail and a good title. Those are the key essential things to get your video watched. Honestly, I think the video content is maybe half, and that's hard to think about in terms of YouTube. It could be even less, honestly. Having a good title and a good thumbnail, that's the first thing that you ever see when you come across a video, and it's the reason why you watch the video. And put some effort into a good title and thumbnail. You never know exactly what'll work better than the next until you start playing around with it, so just get started. That's always a big barrier to entry, is just people overplan everything to the point where they never start. That actually was definitely a problem with me too. I would overplan everything to death, and then I'd almost just keep pushing it off because there was something else I could look into. But yeah, doing good titles and thumbnails, and also I think it's very hard now. YouTube's a little bit easier to grow now from the start. They're being a little bit more fair with everybody. But it's not about subscribers as much anymore. A lot of it is just thumbnails, titles, and just getting your message out there enough to be clicked on some and show up in search. And then it'll start to grow a little bit better. But when you start titling things more locally for your local business, then when people search in Google, it's going to pop up. It's like there's so little competition there. I saw Texas Tint Masters with yours, and then Chicago Auto Pros is a great example too. The reason that they named their business Chicago Auto Pros is so they would be very searchable, and then they named their channel the same thing. So if you're actually going to make a channel now, just try and be a little bit more local in the way that you do your descriptions, and the way that you do your titles, and the way that you do your thumbnails, even like the meta. So like the picture. Don't skip, when you take a picture of the camera, give it whatever title it gives it, bunch of letters and numbers, change that, just any little thing that you can add to give yourself a competitive advantage, do that, tagging, everything.
Got it. And Vinny actually asked in the comments, what's a good program to edit videos? What do you recommend?
There's a lot of Good editors now. I use Premiere. Premiere is though like for their whole suite is like $50 a month. But there's a lot more people starting to finally talk about DaVinci. DaVinci Resolve is Blackmagic's software. Patrick actually uses DaVinci. So I would say that's a pretty good one. Just, you know, if you have a Mac, it comes with iMovie. You don't really need to invest in an expensive video editor. And then, but I would really suggest doing it on a PC if possible. But you know, I come from before smartphones. I'm not that old, but like still I did everything on PCs, so I'm not as familiar with doing things on phones and tablets as far as the video creation portion. I think the computer gives it a lot more flexibility in terms of, you know, being more precise with like your cuts and like just getting things organized because you have more real estate, and you can move your windows around and stuff like that. But Patrick actually, I think for the first 3 years, I don't remember exactly how long, but his whole channel was built in the beginning off of an iPhone. So if that gives you anything to go by, that you don't need much to start growing a channel and putting content out there. As far as local stuff, there's really like, I don't know, there's not much competition as far as local videos. I'm starting to now talk to customers and stuff like that, and I'm just seeing, I'm like, oh, I should have a video about that. I should have a video about that. Care instructions, this, that, like, yeah.
It's really cool that like you're saying, how that comes together from your customer's request, turns it into a video that solves you from explaining it ever again to anybody, gets people to come to you already knowing what they want. They already have their answers answered.
Yeah, I mean, because the less you know, people are adverse, I think, overall to human interaction anyways in the very beginning. Like, you know, the self-checkout in grocery stores are always way busier than the actual cashiers just because you don't have to interact with anybody. So it's like through text messages, through video, just anything you can already have prepared for them that they can go through, they're going to go through it.
And I mean, you can spend your entire life repeating the same thing over and over, or you can make a video. Because I mean, essentially, if you don't make the video, or you don't type it up, you're gonna repeat yourself for the rest of your career, right?
Yeah, exactly. Some of the best videos definitely come out of sheer frustration from answering questions. So like my buddy just messaged me because they tinted his 2 front doors, and I've done it for him. I don't know. We were just talking about it. This was like his fifth car that we actually tinted. And we just did the front doors, and he sent me a message. He's like, it's got those little bubbles, like the little water spots or whatever. Those will go away, right? Like a few days. And it's like, yes. And then immediately at that point, I was just like, oh my God, I should have a video. It's because I had I did a Subaru out of here. And then the customer took a picture of it the next morning and sent me a picture. He's like, hey, is this okay? And it's like, yep, that's exactly what I told you about. But they don't have any sort of visual for it. They just know what you told them, and it's always like in one ear out the other. And I think the other customer asked for like, hey, do you have a pamphlet with like care instructions or anything like that? And it's like, I should just make a video.
And let's talk about Glassade.
Oh, okay.
Which is not a video. It is
No.
Glassade. Though there are a couple new videos about Glassade. I think one just went up today. Dave from Artistic Window Tinting. I noticed he made a second video about Glassade, and he was demoing it on a rear window he was tinting that was out of a car. And, super clear video as to like the purpose and all. But for those who haven't seen that video or haven't come across Glassade, tell us a little more about it.
Okay. Well, it's a 10 mil thick strip. It's white. I don't think I have one on hand here. It's over at my box, like 10 feet away.
Go get it. Who cares? If you want, like I'm just saying, I don't know. Are you plugged in? Because it doesn't. Your call.
I am. I just got to move my headphones.
Oh, don't worry.
Let me see. I know I got it on hand somewhere, but then I ran and I did an account, so I'm still on a wireless mic though. This garage is very not organized. I don't have the packaging, but my packaging doesn't really matter. Except for Carrie's awesome logo that she made, so.
Carrie from Iron Duck Designs.
Yes, she did the logo. She does all my work. She's awesome.
Mhm.
So this is basically it. This is a roll that's been sitting out for a little while. Um, but basically, all it is 10 mil thick, basically tape. Looks a lot of people compare this to pin striping. It's thicker. It's not 3M. You line basically the border of a window, and then you can cut on it, and that was the main purpose. So the whole idea was just to prevent scratching on back windows and stuff because. Um, this was kind of born out of just I didn't want to be held responsible anymore for teaching cutting on right on a lot of back windows and stuff like that. So I think glass is getting softer. It's more inconsistent. It's cheaper. And the glass that they used to make isn't quite as hard as what it used to be. Sometimes it's completely fine. Excuse me. And sometimes it's not. So just it's a product that was born out of, hey, if I'm going to be teaching people a lot more hand cutting and stuff like that, I need to have something at least to cover my own ass. And then it turned into a little bit of a product because, I if I'm going to be using this one thing and I like it, then other people are probably going to like it too on some level and then need to pick it up. So I need to make it actually available. And being that this, I did a lot of searching, tried to find something that would work. I couldn't find anything like this anywhere on the market. So I reached out to a bunch of different manufacturers and I finally got something in the works. And then here we have it today. But yeah, so it's really like I'm not much of a product guy, which is still why I don't have like a basic video on it. I don't want to push it on my channel necessarily that way. I've had enough questions though that I need to make a video on it. But it was just one of those things that I could use, and then I just try and save back windows and windshields and stuff like that. So
does that also kind of eliminate the need for like to be backlit because you have like that bright white
yeah,
perimeter? So you don't
yes.
like, because if you're a one-man tinter and you're doing that, maybe putting a light inside being on the outside, that's a pain in the butt.
Yeah, for the most part. I always would use a light, like a brighter stick light, and I'd work it on the outside of the glass and kind of reflect it off the paneling and stuff like that. So that was okay, but there was always those spots that the light doesn't quite reach on tighter deck lids and stuff like that. So yeah, it's white for that reason. You have a little bit of application time. And I didn't want anything that would take away from my time. That was also really important. So when you take, because you could just put the tint on and then throw a light on the inside that takes you 2 seconds. And then let's say most of it's exposed and you don't have to readjust it. Then you just cut it out. There's no extra steps. But when you go to put this on, that's an extra step and that takes a little bit of time. So you need to make up for that time. So the fact that it's white definitely helps at least speed that up in regards to cutting it out. So make up for the time.
So you're obviously a YouTube pro, no question about that. And I love that, like, even when you come up with your own product, you're like, well, I don't really want my own physical products necessarily. Like, it's not, your focus is where I love it because it's all virtual. It's all like, you can get up and go. I guess where I'm going with this is, have you thought about doing a like personal vlog or that's type of thing? Because you're already living your life. You're awesome on camera. You have all this equipment. Why aren't you just streaming 24 hours a day? And I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I've tried vlogs. I wanted to do vlogs in the past. It's usually more work than I like it to be though. The vlogs, my vlogs, never did very well. So I've tried a handful of them, and it's just one of those things where just off of the initial impressions, maybe I could get them to grow. But for the amount of effort it put into it, vlogs aren't searchable. So vlogs are very like in the moment, unless you're using like a product or you're using something that people are gonna be looking for at least the next handful of months. So it was kind of like, hey, what's going on today? I don't know. There's going to be lulls where nothing really interesting is worth sharing, I think. And, for the running around, tinting cars and stuff like that, it was hard to make time for a vlog. But yeah, just the general reception, they didn't do as well as what I'd hoped. So we like I've gone down a lot of different rabbit holes with YouTube to see what I felt worked well and what didn't. And finally, after all this time, I think I've more narrowed in on, even though live streams aren't maybe as broad as what I'd like them to be, I think there's a lot of potential there. And it's finally a really cool way to interact with my own community. That's been a real headache, actually, because you have like the Facebook groups, and there's interaction going on there, but it's not a conversation. It's not as much of a conversation. I always take too long to like type comments and stuff like that. I reread what I wrote about 5 times and adjust it before I actually post it. So there's a lot of time there. Same thing with Twitter, same thing with Instagram. I'm always like rethinking what I'm typing to try to make my point clear or just get out a thought. And then before I know it, it's been 15 minutes and I haven't posted anything or replied or anything. And then I'm on to something else because I actually have actual things that I need to do too. So the live streams, those are just fun because I can talk to window tinters and stuff for hours at a time. Me and Patrick, I mean, he'll tell you, we'll be on the phone for like 5-6 hours at a time when we have nothing to do other than tint. It's just like, I need to fill that extra space. So like being able to do that in live with like listening to chat as I'm going is super cool.
So you've been tinting for about a decade?
Yeah, but I think 11 years now, maybe.
So it's quite a long time. You've obviously come across a lot of different window films and so on. You have GeoShield on that beautiful rack behind you.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, I don't know, what do you think? Like, why GeoShield?
A good part of it was Burns reached out to me, and the other part is legitimately a good film. So he's the type of company that likes working with creative people, and that's something that has been very hard to come across. So there's a lot of window films that are all really good, you know, whether people want to argue about Solar Effects or SunTech, Lumar, GeoShield, you know, you name it. And there's a lot of things that, you know, in their lifetime warranty, color stable films, they have programs that are going to take care of you. They're good as companies. They're very, you know, they can get to the point where they're pretty comparable. And then he came out with an advancement in the carbon, and that's what really started to pique my interest, because carbon's at this place where it's been out for a period of time. Some people kind of know what it is. Tinters know what it is. But generally speaking, mainstream is more ceramic. But they're like, carbon's like this cool in-between upsell. When you can tell somebody about carbon, it's not dyed. It fits that nice in-between spot. But I've never liked to install it because of that haze. I would have more complaints than anything. So when he came out with an advancement that took away that haze, I got interested in picking the film up, period. And then we had worked on a video in the past because he reached out to, we actually did a couple of videos together. So he reached out to me out of the blue, asked me if I could do a video on how to install windshields safely, which I honestly didn't think that it would do that well. And it pulled in over 100K views. So that was pretty sweet. And then I don't know, we ended up doing shrinking ceramic versus, I ended up changing that video. It was going to be how to shrink ceramic film. And then the film just shrank extremely fast. And I was like, I can't, like, it's not comparable to the ceramics that I've shrunk in the past. So then I ended up doing it against dyed and, doing it against a different ceramic. One ceramic versus the other ceramic to give a fair comparison of what some are like and what that one's like. So so that's how that's how GeoShield came about. Just the mix of actually reaching out and being interested in video and just what I was doing, and also just actually having a good product on top of it. Because I used to try and outreach to a bunch of people, and it was just always like a brick wall. People were doing their own thing, and it's just like, I'm trying really hard to make YouTube, and I can see where that's going. And, you know, there are already people with millions of subscribers, and like it's actually doing good for like advertising or whatever it is that you're doing, and to try and actually fund the YouTube channel, because AdSense is its own headache. Like, I don't know, it was cool. It was cool to bring them on board and to finally see some people like you with Tint Wiz. Like, there's like this little spark of hope. There's like, oh my God, there's finally some companies that are interested in working with creators and seeing where the actual future of advertising and stuff is going.
But I mean, is it even, it's like, I echo everything you just said as far as like that, but is it even the future? Is it not like the present? Like, how dense do you have to be at this point not to see? Like, it's not like, do you know what I mean? We're not, even if you were in VR right now, we'd be like, okay, I get it already. Like, how far forward do you have to go until you're like, it's not a long shot at this point. I think it's crazy that companies aren't all over you, aren't all over Window Tint Warriors and Patrick and so on. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
They don't, most of them I don't think know who I am. When I walked around the show floor at the convention, it was really cool because it always seemed like there was an installer at one of those places or a trainer that could vouch for me. Nobody else in corporate knew who I was whatsoever. And like, that's fine. But it just means that they're not paying attention. And
Right.
it's just like the industry seems like it's always 5 years behind of everything else. Like maybe more than that. But I think that's the biggest problem. There's certain industries that have it is the present, but window film as an industry is like 5 years behind of absolutely everything else.
Which is the whole reason why there's just such an opportunity there, because you get to like live in the present and then go 5 years backwards and work in an industry, right? Or whatever it is.
Which was part of the reason why I started restreaming to Facebook too as well. It's because telling corporate that I was on YouTube, it's like, yeah, they're on YouTube somewhat watching the videos that they want to watch. And when the more it's like, no, it's really cool. And you tell them and you tell them and you tell them, and it's just like, whatever. And then all of a sudden you pop up in their feed that they're going through because it's like, hey, do you understand what I'm talking about now? Then out of the blue, it's like, oh, I started to actually get in front of like the people
Right.
that make decisions somewhat, but it's still kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. Do you know your daily view stats for your channel approximately? Like daily overall views?
Yeah, I think it's somewhere in the range of like 40,000
Right.
a day right now.
40,000 approximate views a day. Of course, that's across all 180 so videos. But like,
yep.
If you're a company that jumped in early or whatever it is, or whatever portion you're in those videos as a sponsor, like that's a huge amount of attention. And even if those are a mixture of like, obviously some people are those tint shops that follow you. Some of them are just people that are probably looking to get their windows tinted and come across you tinting a similar vehicle or whatnot. Like that's so much brand awareness all across the board. Like if I'm looking to get my Explorer tinted, I see you just made a video on tinting an Explorer. I see you're using GeoShield. In the video, I may end up going to a tint shop and saying, hey, let me find a GeoShield. Like, hey, this guy's obviously credible. He knows what he's doing. Let me find a GeoShield dealer in my area to get that tinted. That's what I want. I don't know how that's such a hard concept for tint companies, right?
I'm not entirely sure either. I think part of it comes down to it's very hard to quantify right off the bat. Like if I'm gonna have a video made, what's my ROI gonna be in the next 30 days or something like that? I've heard stuff like that a lot actually, and it's very hard to get across unless they literally have people knocking on their door or numbers going by, in the form of sales or something like that. A lot of the business people want it quantifiable, and I don't think that's the right way at all to look at it. When you make a campaign, you need to have some sort of a marketing budget, and you need to understand that the window film is never a quick sell. I don't know how many times I heard about different films, but I couldn't be bothered. I had samples and stuff around here, or different products, different tools and stuff like that. Most of the time, I can't be bothered to go out of my way to try it out until I have an issue. So you really even if somebody was to reach out and have me make a video, you'd get an initial reaction from it for sure. But then it's one of those things that's going to go in the back of people's minds. And then the other hard thing to do is actually track it in some way without like a promotional code or something like that, because you could have whatever tint shop all of a sudden asking about a particular film. But because they didn't actually say who referred them over, then the company would have no idea. So a lot of it's lost in that space right there. But yeah, I think they're incredibly ignorant, really, for not
Right.
going those routes at all.
I think you hit the nail on the head, because if you have a job for for a tin manufacturer, if you have a job in general, like any job in general, not just a job, but any job in general on that like level, I think for the most part, a big part of the job is self-preservation. You want to make sure that you keep your job. You want to make sure that, whatever you do is going to be successful and so on. And like you're saying, I guess, it's almost like having to prove it to your boss and they prove it to their boss and so on becomes more of the goals than impact.
Yeah. One of the things that really surprised me was like I'll use Tri-Edge as an example. Actually, it took them 6 years to get into SolarGuard. I don't know how many years people have been using their tools for. I mean, obviously more than 6 years, but to see a daily carry on so many people's belt and just a staple in the industry at this point for sure. It still took them 6 years because they would have a marketing guy, or they would, like, the person in charge of bringing in products or something would be tied up with other things, and then all of a sudden somebody got let go or whatever, and then it was another 6 months to hire a new person, so nobody could make decisions in the meantime or something. He's just like, there's so much bureaucracy in all of it that it just slows everything down to the point that nothing happens.
Yeah, and I think, go ahead.
Yeah, just it takes just a very, very long time for any of it to happen. And I almost think that like it takes a newer, smaller company to kind of rise up to stir everything up at this point.
Yep, because they're going to have the time, they're going to have like the focus and the drive to try and find where those opportunities exist, take those risks. There's no one to necessarily answer to. And I think all this translates into, parallel to, like, even if you're not in the manufacturing side of things, you're on, you have your own tint business. Like, your first years in business, you see it. Like, you see it. There's like a hunger. There's I need to get every review. I need to make every customer count and so on. But, you also see, I've seen it with those bigger companies to where they're bigger. So then now, the office people aren't as hungry. The installers, they've been doing this for 20 years and they're retiring in a couple. And, why take on that new product? We already do this. We don't need to do that and so on. And
Yeah.
it's like, it's kind of just this evolution of a business that you have to kind of be conscious of and fight against to not fall into it in your own way.
Yeah, it's definitely complacency. You just get to the point where you can't be bothered with it. You're doing so much, and then before you know it, something that you didn't pay attention to, right? Like I could use TikTok as a great example, right? As a creator, I should be on there. I should be doing stuff, but I'm complacent with TikTok right now. And before I know it, maybe that will take off more than YouTube or comparable to YouTube in its own way, shape, or form. It's already ginormous, but I can't be bothered to mess around with it either. So that'll fall on me too. But yeah, it's just a natural evolution of certain things. But I wish, I don't know. It's cool to finally see something in between, because like as far as people working like in the tint industry, companies finally working with the handful of creators that we have, because there really aren't very many. But they do make a significant impact. And what I was really surprised was when I started making a YouTube channel, there was like hardly any videos, and mine really didn't get that many views. But I mean, as far as tinting goes, they did pretty well. And then, after a handful of years, I started getting comments of, hey, you helped me start my tint business. I started tinting because of you, and now I have my own business. And it's like, so that progression is almost like 3 or 4 years out from like day one. So if you start a video, if somebody starts watching your channel, follow them 3 or 4 years later and see where they are. So.
Yeah, Alan Mucha, I think, in the comments said that your videos have have been great. You and Rick Tallman, you guys gave away so many pointers here and there. There's another example.
Awesome.
Yeah, I, you know.
Yeah,
So
that's really cool.
do you, I mean, and what you just said, not to skip over that, like 4 years out, 3, 4 years out, like, it's so easy to do a video and then like one day later question why you did the video, or like a month later be like, that was a big waste of time. And 4 years out, you're getting feedback. It just goes to show you that there is, I think, any, like in anything that's successful, a level of like consistency is important. Like you have to go
Yeah.
deep. You have to continue. You don't even know what you're going deep into usually until you just keep going.
That's where live streaming's been a big breath of fresh air, because when you're just making YouTube videos on how to do this and how to do that, you kind of get lost because the people that you're actually impacting, you don't have any interaction or relation with. Like not as far, not beyond the comments. You aren't calling them up on the phone, seeing how they're doing necessarily. It's just like, if somebody's got a screen name, it's kind of anonymous, and then they eventually start to blend together to some point. They're always appreciated, but it's just like you don't have that same, like, the convention's such a great example. It's like everybody will argue on Facebook about how to tint a window, and then they'll go to the convention and everybody's all smiles and having a great time, and like people that you thought they were toe to toe with, they're just like having the best time they've ever had. So it's just putting that conversation, like live streaming. Yeah, everybody's still a robot voice in my head, but it at least is some more form of a conversation than I've had in the past, and it's hugely helpful. Really, really grounds me.
Chamal Jose asked, what year did you start making videos? Because I remember that you made one about baby shampoo. I think at the time the video you were doing a mobile service. Was that about 10 years ago?
That was actually at my dad's place. I started making videos in 2011, and at that point, YouTube came out in 2005, 2006, and then bought by Google. And I thought by 2011, there's already channels with like hundreds of thousands of subscribers, handful with millions of subscribers, and I thought at that point it was already too late to start making video. So like people look at it now, it's 2020, and they think YouTube is already like, maybe as big as it's going to get. But there's still countries that are coming into YouTube, and it's still growing. So whatever you're starting to make on YouTube, just look at it like 4 years out, and it'll be immensely bigger from what it is today. I mean, I'm constantly surprised too, even by like listening to the creators on Twitch. They're like, well, yeah, I've been a longtime streamer since 2016. It's like, what? Gee, if I started on the Twitch train in 2016, I'd have like 40,000 viewers gaming. Like, dude, it's unreal.
Yeah, it's the way I think about it is I think about it like going to the gym, because, the gym's one of those things where like you can go once and it's not that great, like it sucks, and then you go like week after week after week. But like if you would have gone to the gym, if you started going to the gym 1 year ago, you would have some serious, like there's no way around it. You have some results, and like, but you got to go.
Yeah.
Every day is not going to feel like you're making results, but like you are taking that progress forward. It's never too late either, whether you're a 70-year-old person in the gym or 13 or somewhere in between.
Yeah, it's that little progression day by day that you don't really see it happening, and then all of a sudden something starts to take off, and then when you take a big step back and you look at where you were and where you are now, it's definitely a huge difference. Yeah. So,
and like you said too, you never know what's going to come of it. So,
yeah,
something like Twitch, they could overnight be announce how discoverable. Like how they're going to put something in place, let's say, that makes their videos discoverable. YouTube could purchase them, and then all that content's going to basically be YouTube content. Like there's so many ways. Like 2 years from now, this could be such an opportunity for window film manufacturers that they're going to be plucking the top 10 YouTube creators and paying them $50,000 a year to sponsor them each. Or there's so many different things that like getting ahead of it now in any way that makes you happy and comfortable could pay off.
Yeah, a good example somewhat is, so when I started making videos, I was just, I've always taught people how to make a YouTube channel, or not a YouTube channel, how to tint windows, but none of it was related to the business side of things. Now I have people that have literally gone past me as far as the business side of things goes, and they're giving me advice on what to do with my own. Like, that's just a total swing around because they took things that I was doing and then they just figured it out. Didn't expect that whatsoever. And there's been opportunities far beyond that. So,
Have you ever dabbled, and I'm sure the answer is going to be yes, but maybe not. I don't know. Have you dabbled
yep.
with spending money on promoting your YouTube channel, whether it be on YouTube or whether it be on Facebook? But just, because there's obviously ads and so on as an opportunity.
No, actually, no, I haven't ever paid to promote my YouTube channel. I've always been a big believer in organic reach. But that's because the videos that I make, like I didn't ever want to feel like I had to pay to promote like helpful videos. Like that to me is so backwards. Like you can learn how to make a career off of this. I don't want to have to pay to put it in front of you. That's the way I still feel about it. Because there's so much good that can come from something like that. But now, like with a business where I like literally trying to convert people into jobs, that's I think a little bit different. And so like right away off of Facebook, I started paying to promote a handful of my videos that way. But yeah, I haven't tried to pay to promote the channel. I think it's always hard to try and target demographics too. I mean, I guess I could try and put it more in like the automotive and just in front of things. But to me, most people end up skipping ads. And I want to just, the people that come across it, they actually want to see it. And that's why I haven't. So basically those two reasons. So.
Well, it hasn't. That's, I mean, even better in a way because that means that you can accomplish all that you have without having to put out any ads. That's pretty incredible.
It's time's been a big help for sure. Starting in 2011 and just happening to pick the right platform and then keep making content for it. But you kind of have to always take a step back and like look at those type of things too. Like this landscape is bigger than just making content. You have to understand how it's getting shown to people, where it's getting shown, and what the platform is actually doing at its core. And I got very lucky with the YouTube portion of that. I thought Facebook was going to die, but Facebook is still around. They've actually revamped their PC or their web browsing side of things, and I'd imagine they'll probably have an app update eventually that'll reflect the same thing, but it's actually like a cool, modern, younger look. Facebook actually looks really, really cool on desktop now. I was really surprised to see that.
So when you say lucky, what you mean by lucky is you put yourself in an opportunity and it just kind of worked out to be the right place, right time, but like you created that luck, like because you're willing to put yourself in that position.
True. And like, I guess it's just having a good intuition on some things, like actually, like I said, looking at the way the platform is handling things. So like YouTube, whenever I wanted to know how to do something, I would look on YouTube. It was very video centric. And I think that's how most people learn. And the fact that there's been no other real video platforms to challenge YouTube on that field, Facebook somewhat, but Facebook's more in the moment type of videos. It's not like a catalog of stuff that you can that most people are going back and rewatching and stuff like that. Not as much. Right. So on that front of things, so putting my eggs into that basket, but still keeping an eye on the other things too. So what's
best case scenario like 5 years from now? Like if you can share, like where do you see Matt in 5 years? What's like best case? All the cards line up. What does it look like?
Okay. So I actually didn't land on what I like, because 5 years, 5 years ago, like it was always hard for me to think in terms of 5 years from now, because 5 years always felt like an eternity. But now, even, people will say I'm really young. I'm 31 now. I feel older for sure. But looking back, it's like, oh, okay. So it's actually not that long of a time frame. 5 years, really, probably a different studio, but the same type of thing. Live streaming is finally something that I can settle down with. Making videos that I feel are needed or gonna grow, and being able to build my live stream core audience, because it's been the most fun. It's such a good mix of everything. You have actual work being done, so it keeps me kind of grounded in that regard. I'm always having to do something. It's been really good as far as interacting with my audience, and it's got this really cool integration with technology, which I absolutely love. It's not about my setup and what it looks like necessarily, but it's about what I can actually do with it. Because if I just make a really fast computer, like, I can run some video games and stuff like that, but I want it to actually do something. So like, streamers, they have awesome setups so they can stream, or, awesome content creators have their awesome setups so they can do work. So this, having a studio space that is actually built around the technology is such a good mix. So when, like, something I'm actually going to go pick up tomorrow, because I ran into an issue today, because dealerships drive me insane. I'm going to be getting like a Ring doorbell, the motion sensing thing. Because there's a motion sensor right out here with lights, but it doesn't have a camera on it. And if I'm somewhere else in the house and then there's a car that pulls up, I don't know until they ring the doorbell, or I'm standing here with the garage open or something like that. But they came to pick up a car, but I didn't know when they were coming to pick up the car. So I was in the basement and they rang the doorbell. And then it wasn't like a big deal or anything, but like I was about a couple minutes out from leaving from the house. So having something like that with like two-way communication and stuff, it's like the 2020 way of handling business now, is like motion cameras and technology and surrounding whatever you can do. So being able to build all that up around being also able to teach people how to make a career, that's like, I've settled down there. I'm good with that for this foreseeable future. So I want like a better studio overall. But that's kind of like where I can live.
Well, you're not only teaching people how to make a career with actually tinting windows, but like you're paving the career, what a career can look like with your whole setup. And I just really, really impressive. Like you're the platinum, like I feel like a platinum standard as far as like videos go, as far as streaming goes, as far as like the whole thing goes.
Thank you.
I know huge inspiration to myself, and like you just,
oh, that's cool.
You need some pats on the back for this, because you I don't know what the comment, again, I got to go look at the comments, but I doubt they're as kind as you deserve on YouTube for what you've done.
Yeah, and like, thank you. I really appreciate that. But so I took a good look at I've kind of been in and out of shops for a long time, being mobile, always seeing like, okay, what happens if you go hard into this area of things? And then the more a business grows, like they start taking on other services, but that takes away from my time to be able to create. So then I have to have people do that. But then you have to manage people, and then you have to have somebody do it. And it's like the bigger business that you grow, the more other things that you have to do. And I don't really want to move in that direction unless I have like super dependable people that would just like happen to come on board and it's like, yeah, I'll take care of everything, and then I don't have to deal with it.
Right.
That's kind of why I've mostly stayed around window tinting. It's like I could pick up vinyl or I could pick up this, but then it's like it's kind of just supplementing my time with like a different thing. But being able to like build something out of window tinting that can kind of grow on its own, in like a cool way. Yeah, it's like you don't need to pull in all those extra services necessarily. You can just pull in like a cool setup and like a different way of attracting customers and actually elevating your own business to be the place that maybe the higher end cars go, or, just even if it's upselling people from dyed to carbon on a more consistent basis, that'll drastically impact your income. So that to me is huge.
Yeah, I mean, it's window tinting is often called a lifestyle business. I feel like you kind of
Yeah.
elevated the lifestyle end of that, and you minimized the business end of it.
Yeah, cause why not? I mean, you're doing cool things to cars. Like it's been such a like it's automotive, but it's so like the way that that everybody does it is so like mechanical. It's like when you're fixing a car, you're just like changing out a part, and it's like yeah, let's pull in window tinting the same way. But then you have all these cool like you don't look at artists necessarily that way. They're like their stuff is made to be looked at, and the way that they can handle their business is very like it's just the way that people present their businesses. And then I started looking at like recently with Chicago Auto Pros, the way that they handle high-end detailing and the way that other places handle some high-end detailing. It's like, dude, this is kind of like its own art form, or it is its own art form. And they like at the end of the day, with detailing, it's like your car's clean, but there's paint correction and there's so much more that goes into it. So when you showcase that, it's really, really cool.
Did you happen to catch the Netflix series called The Fastest Car?
No, I've seen it there. I haven't watched it though.
So one of the people on it is the guy from Atlanta Custom Wraps.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's got a really big YouTube channel. He has a McLaren 720S, and he was on the show with his
Nice.
McLaren. And
Yeah.
that's kind of, I mean, it just kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier. Like, I doubt when he started his YouTube channel, he would think that he'd be plucked off of YouTube to be on Netflix for a show like that. It's like you can't really predict what direction that goes in. It's just a wrap company.
What's his channel name? I'm
I
looking him
believe
up.
it's Atlanta Custom Wraps.
Okay.
And he's
I'm
really
trying to
known for
find.
like he does a lot of camouflage wraps.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Like,
that's cool. Yeah, there was another guy too. It starts with a Y. He's got a couple million
I know what you're
subscribers
talking
now.
about in the UK, right?
Yeah. Yep, in the
Azamite,
UK.
whatever, whatever.
Yep. And he's still like when they do pan outs, like his shop isn't really big. It's only
No.
3 bays and stuff, but he's got
Yep.
high end stuff in and out all day, but he's
Yep.
got other people handling it.
Yep.
And yeah, they got picked up for a show too. I mean, I always thought that a cool reality show would be like the window tinting life on some level, because there's just so much drama and craziness that can happen on the day to day. Just people getting pissed off at one another, and oh my
Yeah.
God, working at my dad's shop drove me absolutely insane.
Well, and that I caught Patrick talking about it a few times. Like that was responsible for your hiatus off of YouTube, where everyone thought you died, right?
Yeah, I actually I didn't know that was the air. I didn't know people think I was literally dead because it's like I was still on Facebook.
I didn't know. I mean,
But
that's, you know what? I think the first time I came across your channel was during that hiatus. And my
yeah.
thoughts were just like, how does this guy with a mustache logo, how is he doing so well? And why did he stop?
Hmm.
I just couldn't figure out, like, why would you stop if you were doing so well? Like best on YouTube and then stop. But
It was too much and it was doing too little. And that's where like I had to take a step back with even what I was doing and figure out where do I want to take this, because this goes into YouTube. A lot of my like so I don't have like now I have Glassade, but like well, Glassade's not going to pull me in a full-time income. AdSense isn't going to pull me in a full-time income. The only thing that's actually in the window tinting space that's going to pull me a full-time income is actually doing the work. So all the video and stuff was extra. And so you might think like, hey, why don't you use YouTube to pull in your own work? Well, I was working at my dad's shop, and yeah, it's family, but we butted heads because he never listened to anything that I had to say as far as running the business. If it wasn't his idea, then it wasn't happening unless he thought it was his own thing. So it's like, that traditional family business type of thing where it's like you're always butting heads, and then it's like you need some space. And that day after day after day, trying to then try and make a little bit of time to shoot a video. And then every time Patrick and anybody else who's made like an automotive video, I'm sure can swear by this. When you hit the record button and you're in a shop environment and everything is dead quiet and okay, we're going to make a video now. You hit record, the phones start ringing, people start yelling, other things start moving. It's just like everything happens and you cannot for the life of you make a video. Like I swear to God, there's one time I went to shoot a video and then I start recording. This was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the day's dying down, and the employee pulled in his own car to remove his wrap off of his car. It's like, okay, and then you just hear and it's like, come on. So yeah, it was one thing after the next, and then trying to edit all my thoughts together into a video. It wasn't doing enough to actually like make sense. It was too much work and frustration. So, and then coupled with like reaching out to companies and like literally nobody wanted to work with me as far as collabs and trying to get something cool out there, or advertising or whatnot. No, it was just like, yeah, we can send you some tools. It's like, okay, I have tools, but thanks.
Most missed opportunity still to this day is that sort of marketing and that sort of connections and so on.
I think so, but they don't see it that way. So the cool thing is that that actually making evergreen content helped to grow the channel, even though I wasn't posting videos. So every once in a while I look back and I have another like 5,000 subscribers, and it's like, wow, okay, cool.
So you just said you can't really, not you can't, I don't, your exact words, but you're not going to bring necessarily a full-time income just from YouTube. A car.
Not back then.
Do you feel that is the case because limited to the size of the window film industry? Do you feel that's the case now, but that's going to change for you or for everybody? Like where and to put in like in terms of what's a full-time income, in my mind, anything above maybe $50,000 a year, in my mind, is about a full-time income.
Yeah.
Just to put it into perspective, in case anybody out there is used to making over $1 million a year, that's different.
Yeah, because I mean, if you can like make more money window tinting than making videos, like if you're only pulling in 10 to like even 20K a year off of video, I think at the high point, like it was actually encouraging at the high point of AdSense back in the day. It's picked up now. It was like up to, off of 4,000 subscribers, I think I was doing about $700 a month off of YouTube. That was amazing. And then YouTube, all of a sudden, they cut revenue by 45% because they were actually giving 100% to creators, which at the time I was frustrated when they did that, but I totally understand. They got to make their money too.
Right.
But that was a huge dent. And then CPMs, the price that you get paid per 1,000 views, that started to drop too, because they opened up ads to everybody. So all of a sudden those valued ads were being shown way more. So when they were shown on your channel, they didn't mean as much as far as dollars go anymore. So I think now there's a lot more opportunity because the industry's grown a little bit. People have wised up. There's still marketing budgets, but now there's enough other industries that are all in digital, and they see, oh yeah, when somebody watches somebody else do a thing, then maybe they want to pick up the thing that they're using in the video for what they're trying to do themselves. So yeah, I think there's some opportunity, but it's very, very tough to get there. There's still a lot of growing that needs to happen first.
So back in the day, one of the things you just mentioned was how AdSense, like how they cut their revenues for creators. And that's obviously a hot topic for a lot of creators. They're like on your shoulder, hey, our revenue went down and so on. The way I look at it is kind of like what we just saw with Uber, where, you're going to get paid as a driver more if you were a driver like 5 years ago, 5 years ago than you may now. But there's more people using it now than there was 5 years ago. So it's kind of this trade-off. And ultimately what they're doing is they're giving out more of the money up front to drive growth to the platform. And then they have to scale it back because it's not necessarily, something that you can do forever. And one of the things that I came across, it had to be about 15 years ago, was you could actually set up a website, you could put AdSense on it, and then you could run AdWords campaigns to
Mhm.
that, and with a high enough click-through ratio, you would make money. It would be cheaper to get somebody to click on your website. You'd make more than that as a return from them clicking on your ad on your page. And
Mhm.
what a scam that is. Like, because you're just using their ads and their advertising to just siphon money out of ads. And then, like, that
It's
eventually
clever.
became not possible and so on. So it's just,
Now,
it's like part of the cycle of,
it's part of the cycle, and that's been, oh my god, so I've run into that brick wall so many times because, like, there'll be this hot video trend, right? And if you hop on board it, you do well, but then that will die. So if you made your channel 100% catering to that,
right.
it would only do so well until that thing wasn't interesting anymore. So the what YouTube is doing at this point in time is they're actually being incredibly fair, but it makes it more difficult because of how many more people want to be YouTubers now. Um, you'll look across the board. Lots of big channels have very low view counts
Hmm.
on their videos relative to what they used to do, and it's because more people are kind of going on autopilot with YouTube. So if it doesn't pop up in your home feed, they're now showing you the impressions and click-through rates, just like Facebook does. So they're being very helpful in educating you on what is doing well and what just frankly isn't doing well, rather than just you seeing the views and just wondering why isn't my video doing well. Um, but that type of stuff makes it very hard because when YouTube, everybody says comment, like, and subscribe, but those don't really have the impact that what they used to. So when somebody subscribes, they might actually not come back and watch any of your content. They're more likely to just watch what is recommended in their feed if you have a good intriguing title and thumbnail at that point. And so that's where I take a good hard look at live streaming, and there's going to be a hardcore base there, and I can at least focus on growing that part of things while still, like, making some topical videos and things that I think are just going to generally boost the channel as far as, like, exposure. But it's something that I can constantly come back to, 5 years from now, and I think is still going to be, I think it's going to be bigger than it was 5 years from now. But it's like, it's not that same chasing game. It's not like you're constantly trying to figure out what video do I have to make? How do I, how do I be more creative with window tint, like do the same thing over and over, because there's so many more videos out there. There's so many good videos, and it's kind of all the same type of stuff. So when you make one, it doesn't do as well as what they used to do. But it's like, it's exhausting. It's so exhausting to try and figure out what to make next when you're trying to just go for sheer growth. So yeah, live is like I said, with 5 years out, that's something that I can settle down with. So pretty excited for that part.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, not very like discoverable, but if you use, like you're saying, some videos to get discovered and then the lives to maintain your audience and engage your audience, then
Yeah.
that's a combination.
Yeah, it's being very relatable, and like, actually, because you get all those questions, like, things that you've answered 100 times in video, but because people are lazy and they didn't take the 5 seconds to search your channel or whatever to try and find that one video. They just, more and more people are here for the information right now, and that is something, you see it all the time in the Facebook groups. People will just ask a question right at the top as a post to get in front of everybody rather than use the search. There could be already 50 great posts on the one thing, but people can't be bothered to do that. So actually making yourself accessible and available, and but in a way that helps, like, with doing the live stream, that's the all-encompassing thing that I think works the best, at least right now anyways, and I think for the foreseeable future, because there isn't much more that you can do other than answer a question in real time when somebody asks it.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be something if like a manufacturer offered that? Like there was like a manufacturer had a rep that's like always on live stream, like during business hours, anybody can go in and ask any questions anytime.
That would be
Like it's
cool.
just like a room you go into and like, or like a chat room, like basically a chat room, I guess.
Yeah, I'm always surprised that they haven't had their own how-to videos with their own films, and they're very little video and educational presence whatsoever. I mean, they've got an enormous amount of resources, and
Sure.
they could have made me look like a little tiny bug years ago just by putting, a handful of dollars into making some how-to videos and stuff like that, and it just, with their own team, and their own branding and stuff like that. But nope.
You think like it's almost like if I had to guess, it's like nobody actually wants to be on video that probably works for like more than not, people don't want to be on video. So like if
Yeah.
you take a staff of a company, most people are gonna be like, I don't want to be on video. And then, if I think for the bigger companies like an Eastman or a 3M, if you do get somebody who wants to be on video, it almost becomes like, well, and I'm only guessing here. I haven't worked for any of these companies, but from what I see, it becomes like, okay, so what are your videos going to be about? They have to be planned. They have to be approved in advance. They have to be vetted by lawyers. They have to be. So you
Oh,
basically,
but
that's the end of it. Maybe the series comes out, maybe it doesn't, but like it's not going to be something that gains traction because it's too sterilized and like
yeah,
tedious.
yeah, that's true. I guess when you brought up lawyers, that's a good point. Everything has to be scripted. Everything has to be like to a certain level because that's their branding that they're putting on the line. And yeah, I can see that, but it's oh my God, it's
But I think
so
the
out
risk,
of
I still
touch.
think the opportunities for the risk takers, like I understand that like liability, but ultimately like I feel like we see it over and over with brands like outside of the industry when there's some sort of like chaos, something happens with an influencer or whatever it is. Like all it does is bring more attention to the brand, and then they can navigate their way through it. But they've probably never been more popular than during that chaos period for the most part.
Yeah,
Have to
yeah,
be
like any attention is usually good attention. It's like the worst thing that you can do is just to not talk about something.
right.
As far as like bringing awareness, like even if they get a brand gets a wealth of negative press, it does nothing but good for them in the end. But it's I guess a tough concept to understand.
It's a big, big, big
For
pill to swallow as like a public, like especially if you have shares trading on the stock exchange. I guess.
Oh yeah. Because oh man, that's always a bummer. Whenever a company is publicly traded, because then everything that they do is for their stock price, because that's
Hmm.
their only incentive to do anything. So
Hmm.
it's always about beating your last quarter's numbers by like 50% at this point.
Yep.
And if you don't, if you didn't exceed expectations by a certain margin, then you plummet.
Right, and it pushes them towards more I want to call them short term goals and like achievements than like long term long shots and investments that would be game changing. But like long term, who cares? It's more about quarterly and
Yeah.
yearly and
Yep. And at the end, they make decisions based on just bringing in a sheer amount of revenue just to boost those numbers, and then it falls flat the next quarter, and then they're left scrambling again and have to try and be creative or whatever. But yeah, there's too much bureaucracy in the way of a lot of these companies, unfortunately. It's a bummer too, because like when you look at a lot of window tinting shops and where window tinters come from, there's like, we're just real dudes that came from like I don't know, not a huge educational background. Most of them I don't think cleared a PhD or anything like that. So like that's your demographic. You have a lot to work with.
yeah. Yeah. So one of the comments from Brandon Salerno, he said top
Hmm.
YouTube channels: Tint Stuff, Window Tint Warriors, Ralph from Flex Film. Don't mention Flex Film though. Matt gets all worked up. I feel like we're probably nearing the end of this, so if you get worked up, it'll be all right. Just curious. I don't know. Is that an inside joke or what's the context of
No,
that?
there's bad blood there. I don't talk about flex
Got
film,
it.
unfortunately.
Touchy subject. Um, well, so where do we go from here?
I don't know. How have you been doing?
I mean, you know, same as everybody else in a way. I guess not exactly the same, but because everybody has a little bit different business. But riding
Yeah.
out this whole topic, this whole quarantine or stay inside thing, and
Yeah.
riding this thing out just like everybody else. Which circling back to you, it's more like props to, hey, you have a tint business that, as far as I can tell, doesn't have any overhead. So there was not like, you had to be one of the least stressed tint businesses out there when this all happened. And people are like, you have to stay indoors. You're like, no problem. Right?
I live in my tint shop. Yeah. It is definitely still stressful. When it wasn't as bad, and then it started to get bad. But we have enough other, like, I have other small sources of revenue scattered around that are all starting to do better, other than window tinting. So, but I've used them to scale back from just tinting entirely. So I went from tinting like 6 days a week to then tinting to like 4 days a week to then tinting like in shops like 3 days a week. Not necessarily by choice, but I only had a couple of small accounts. And then we were waiting for our lease to be up on the apartment before we ended up moving here. And then I spent some time actually just dressing up the garage, moving everything over, and then starting to get this going, and then overthinking some of this and putting it off a little bit. And then I was like, one of the best comments was from my wife, and it's just like, I always get excited and try and talk to her about all this stuff, and it's exhausting for her, which is why I end up calling Patrick and then going on and on about the like different things that between YouTube and stuff that I want to do here. And then she's just like, so are you actually going to start making money out of here yet? And it's like, good point. She's like, why don't you actually like use money that you're taking out of the garage to then pay for the garage? And it's like, I know. And then that's what was a good kick in the ass to finally get things going. And we've done a handful of things. I actually now have 2 appointments scheduled on Saturday, which is awesome. But yeah, that's that. Definitely a little bit of stress though coming into Corona. But yeah, the fact like this, so I can go on long tangents for everything. When I started, out of high school, I actually went to aviation mechanics school, and a guy came to the school, and it looked like an interesting career option. But then as I was going to it, I talked to some people that have been in the industry for 20 to 50 years. Well, not 50, but they're 50 years old. They've been in the industry forever. And then this was 2008 into 2009. They got laid off from a lot of the airlines because they were older and they couldn't work as hard, and they were getting paid way too much as far as the airlines were concerned. So they were just laid off, and to be under that corporate thumb is something that I never wanted to do. And then being mobile, working for other people, that was a cool way to take care of the customers and get me jobs, and then I only have to focus on the tinting side of things. But then eventually they kind of dictate what goes on, which is fine for the most part as long as they can keep you busy. But as soon as they stop being able to keep you busy, and you see things that they could be doing, and you're just like, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that to pull in some work or whatever? It's because they're complacent, and they're happy where they're at. And then you're left hanging. And then we moved here. I finally was like, okay, we're going to open up our own thing. It happened just after we really moved in, set things up, and started, like a website or whatever for the business. But then, everybody being forced to shut down, it's like now all of a sudden the accounts that I was going to, they have to close, and I can't go to them, and nobody else knows who I am. So then I'm kind of left scrambling because I never made a name for myself in my own area. So yeah, it's it wasn't as stressful as what it could have been, because I finally put myself in a position where I was in control of what was going to happen. And I know it, long story, but just the number of things that are always in the way of your own career, your own life, it's scary. it's crazy at how quickly everything just shut down. And even people that are just bartenders, waitresses, and whatever, it's like there's no reason that they shouldn't have a job, and then all of a sudden, oh, there's a virus, so then they have to shut down any gathering. That's insane.
Yeah, and as far as unpredictability, I feel like that's always existed. This is just the one that everybody could relate to, because like I'm sure there are people who worked at, like are you in Detroit?
Yeah, the Detroit area.
Detroit
Like
area.
not
So
in Detroit, but yeah.
so I mean, I don't know the number, but how many people in Detroit that put their lives into working for motor companies and so on, and that completely changed. You could have been a real estate agent or a mortgage broker in 2007, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden your booming career doesn't really exist for a few years, and like you never know. And this is one we can all relate to. It's like a problem that brings us all together, and it's like a reminder of like, yeah, you never know. Like I used to have the, I mean, I don't think about it much, but I used to really get like afraid of like when I wasn't working from home, I got afraid of like, what if I got really sick, like
Yeah.
injured? It's like, who's gonna pay the bills? Like who's gonna go to work? Like how's that gonna happen? And like those are scary thoughts, and hopefully things that never come about, whether they happen to you or around you. But like, I think it's always worth investing some of your time thinking about them and planning for them. And this is, you can see what can happen. Everything can literally shut down and you can be forced to stay inside. And I think once things happen once, I feel like you're basically paving the way for them to happen again. So like, I
Yeah.
would imagine this will not be the last time in our lifetime that we're told to stay indoors.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and that's an interesting point about being sick and then not being able to work. Because, like, I mean, right now that's the position I'm in. If I'm not sick, then I'm going to stop making money. So there's some things that are there to float, but that's another great question for people too. It's like people that have been tinning for a very long time, and then they've put everything all on them, and then when you all of a sudden you run into a health issue or something, you're definitely screwed.
You break your arm at a tint off on a scooter, and like it can happen.
Yeah, I heard about that one.
Yeah, I was in the elevator, and a gentleman had a sling on, and I was like, I forgot. I said, "Are you a tinter?" I said, "Like, did it happen on a scooter?" Like, just being kind of a smart ass, like just joking. And he was like, "Yep." I was like, "Oh man, I'm so
Oh
sorry."
no.
Like,
And oh man, I totally can see how that would happen too. Because I went way too fast on one of those in Indiana, and then actually like went off into some bushes, but everything was okay. I was just like, oh my God. Yeah, those things are super fun, and yeah, incredibly dangerous if you just like get a little bit out of control. You hit up the bars and stuff like that, and then all right, let's go on the scooters, guys.
yeah, I mean, it could even just be a car accident. Somebody can hit you from behind, and you didn't do anything. You were sitting a red light. And the point being, like, I just think about like when people say like, I don't want to hire anybody. It's they're too much of a pain in the butt, or I don't want to manage them. And I don't want to like. Of course, you want to build a business that fits your lifestyle, but there are advantages to that because like if you have a shop and you're the only person in there, well, what happens if you can't come in? If somebody else exists and can go in, that potentially is a way. So
Yeah.
all things to think about and fit ways, fit whatever works in your lifestyle and for your dream and your passion. I mean, a lot of people imagine success being a lot of square footage for a shop, a lot of
Hmm.
people on payroll, and a lot of cars or windows, cars in and out, or homes being tinted and so on. And that is by, everybody gets to measure success however they want. But like what really, really impresses me is what like you've been able to do, which is have, you know, so much success online. And while it might not be a full-time income, it's still incredible. And still, you never know where it's going to be. Could be 10 times more than a full-time income a couple years from now. You never know. I love that
Yeah.
opportunity.
Taking like a huge hiatus from that definitely gave me some perspective on like what can happen when you're not putting any effort into it. In the meantime, would you like we talked about a little earlier, that little by little, and then a handful of years later, it can turn into quite a bit more. And then I took that hiatus, and I think that was definitely a huge missed opportunity there. But I at least had my foot in the door for a handful of years. That definitely helped a bunch. So. Yeah, I'm really, really interested to see what the future holds. But I'm at a place right now where I'm really, really happy with that. This is something that I can keep coming back to. It's like I don't want to be a full blown shop. I don't want to pull in 5 cars a day. I really just want to pull in one, really like every other day maybe,
Mhm.
and just spend that time
Mhm.
and make a really cool show experience. And like, oh man, the customer was absolutely stoked. That's another thing. Like, I'm just getting into it with customers, but like I let them know where the like it's happening on a couple places. But on this last one, we did an Audi A4 wagon. I had to do a full removal, and then I went live and I did the rest of it. um, the customer was watching on the Facebook page, and then he was wondering who I was talking to, because he like I kept that distance between the page and the channel, and then I just missed out, forgot to tell him, so I let him know. He joined, and the next thing you know, he's talking about Audis with people in chat, and then chat was trying to upsell him on the job at one point too, which was really, really funny, and it's just an interesting dynamic. And dude, he had a blast. And the next thing I know, like, he's sharing it to other groups, he's getting his friends involved, and then it's just like this huge blast of marketing.
Mhm.
I made a video about this before with Facebook. Like, Facebook videos, they pretty much die if they're not shared, or unless you pay to boost them. A lot of the content just, it's here now. Whatever impressions it gets, okay, it's not that exciting, and then Facebook kills it and like puts other stuff in front of it, and that's pretty much it. But then he shared it to a handful of groups, and it did like 5,000 impressions on a page that has 50 likes. That's what my Tint Stuff Facebook page was doing with like 2,000 likes at the time. I just, yeah, it's just incredible the power of what's that type of social media can do.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine like if a Tesla owner, you get the right Tesla owner, and they watch you tinting their car on a live
Mhm.
stream, what kind of like, and then the shareability of that in the forums, and like, I mean,
Yeah,
enormous. And then like, as far as driving up like the price, like who's not going to pay more? Not who's not, but a lot of people will pay more for that level of like peace of mind and comfort and quality and so on.
yeah.
It just all around like who wouldn't want a motorcycle to be worked on by like the guys from like American Chopper or like any TV show you pick? It's like I want to
It's
go there. They're filming.
Yeah, they're filming that. That's my car on there, and like, oh man, it was so fun. So he sent me like, these guys that are into their cars, they'll send you a picture of their cars when you're asking them about what they want done to the car.
Hmm.
And so it's like, oh, I'm going to share this with my audience, let them know that a live stream is happening. The customer is psyched because their car just got posted, and now it's like there's so many little things that are happening there. So you're using it as an announcement. The customer is happy because it's their car. And then it's like you have a before and after. It's creating content for what's going on. And then it's just so many things are coming together there that are all just like, because now you're sharing what you're doing with other people.
Hmm.
It's a teaching platform. It's an entertainment platform on some level, like, and it's an advertisement platform, and it's just like so many things
Yep.
all together out of just like a little studio, or even like, anywhere you want to do it. Patrick now doing it with like the mobile things, like you now you can take it anywhere too. Like, it's crazy.
So one thing that I've been thinking about for a while, which I feel like could even apply to window tinting. It might be a stretch, but like what you if you see everybody, and not everybody, but kind of everybody is looking for more followers in one way or another. I mean, I know it's not everybody. Plenty of people are going to say, I don't care about that. But at the end of the day, like there's a reason why
Hmm.
if you paint wings on the side of the building, you're going to have like 10,000 people taking pictures and selfies with it. And like even during like coronavirus, like there's articles about how many people are lined up to take like sunset photos. And like, like people want like attention on their Instagram and so on. And, if we may get to that day where you're going to have people that want to grow their YouTube channel so much that
Hmm.
I might be willing to pay you $1,000 or $2,000 to tint my car because I'm really paying to be featured on your channel. At the end of
Yeah.
the day, you have a lot of followers. I want to get on there. Like, would you not like if there was if there was a coffee shop that was on YouTube Live, they had 2 million subscribers and hundreds of thousands of people watching live, would you pay $200 for a cup of coffee to go in there and be on their channel? Of course, you're not paying for the coffee. You're paying for the exposure.
You're paying for the exposure, for the experience. Like, yeah, it's just that it's at another level. And I don't see why window tint can't be put in this like artisan category, you know, as goofy as sometimes some of those things may seem. Like there's no reason it can't be there. There's nothing like when I took a good hard look at high-end detailing, it's like I don't want to call it snake oil because it's not, but it's like some of these things, you know, it's like one ceramic coating that could be $300-400 versus $1,000, right? It's like we're doing the same thing with window tinting. A lot of times you can't visibly see the difference of one film to the next. You couldn't necessarily see, like when I did the $100 to $300 comparison in a garage, yeah, they look a little different, but they both look good. So it's like, now where else can you take this? You're only like taking it as like publicizing it and putting it in a way that's an entertainment value and stuff like that. Yeah, it's just fun. It's a great place for the community to connect. The customers started getting involved. It's like everybody, I don't know. I just see the same thing that I saw with video when I started making video. It's like everybody was scared to make video and everybody would always criticize everybody for like a picture because they would have a bucket in the corner and everybody would start talking about that. And it's just they didn't want to be put on the spot or something. I don't know. It was always weird. So then I just started making videos and then I just tried to ignore the noise and keep going. And I see the same thing with like live streaming. It's like, dude, what you do is really, really cool. And when you show it to other people, like I always got nervous when customers would be watching. I never necessarily liked them looking over my shoulder and stuff like that. I'd be self-conscious about a handful of things. But like when you have it with like an audience that you connect with, and then you bring a customer into that, like it's just really, really cool. I see what all the other live streamers are doing, and they're just playing video games, and like that's cool. They're providing entertainment and stuff on their level, but to see where that industry has gone, I never imagined that it would be as big as it was. Like there's tons of people who play video games, but the fact that there'll be, you know, hundreds of thousands of people watching one person being entertaining, it's like that's where some of this is going. Now you take window tinting and now we're making money at the same time. And like this was such a missed opportunity and something I'm going to do. I thought about this before too, but the customer near the end of it, he saw like he was having a great time with chat. He saw some donations and stuff like that. And I missed this message before I end the live stream, but he's like, would it be cool if I paid for the tint job through the YouTube super chat donations and then it would pop up on screen? Like how fucking cool would that be? It's just like chat would have gone insane. Like, so it's so much fun.
Yeah. It's funny when you say like people are watching, your customers are watching you tint live. It's like the modern day like standing over your shoulder, except it's not standing over your shoulder. It's like,
No.
I have nothing to hide. It's the opposite. I have everything to show.
Yep. You take pride in what you do. You know, people like, you know, if you're self-conscious about something that's going on with window tint, then address it. So that's why we've been taking plastic and putting it over the paneling and stuff like that. It's like that's been one of those sore thumb things that I never liked people seeing is when I'm spraying panels. It's like it's okay, but what can we do to at least address that for when we're going live or something like that? So it's now I don't have to worry about it anymore. So it's like we took care of that. And then it's like, so if we have 100%, you know, if you damaged a car, you'd pay for it, right? So any of those things, how many cars do you do in and out that are completely fine? So now they get to see it,
right?
And there can almost be this like too much information type of thing, you know. So when like people only have so much time to watch a certain thing necessarily, so then like it could just be like, like the first one I did, he's like, yeah, I saw parts of it. It was really, really cool. Not everybody's going to watch everything that you're doing all the time when you put it all right there in front of them. It just can get lost in the timeline.
Right. And you're controlling the narrative because, like, you know, things are going to break, things are going to happen, but at least like you're putting out all this content showing how you do things versus like somebody else putting out the content of how one time one thing happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, like,
yeah, with like making a mistake, that's not a thing people really saw me do in video necessarily, but it happens on live. So how do you address it? Well, there's this meme that went around with Call of Duty. It was press F to pay respects. It was like the most inconsiderate thing in the game for like the narrative was a war veteran's funeral or something. You go up to the coffin and literally they tell you press the F key to pay respects. So in chat, when we mess up a window, I tell them to press F in the chat, like, because that window's dead, and like now we make it into a joke, a fun thing. So you can change things. You can change the whole air of things. Really, really fun.
Jesus Ramirez asked, what happened to Tint News? I know that was a video you did. At least one that I saw, maybe a couple.
I did 2 of them. Tint News, it's one of those things, like I do this all the time with YouTube where I start something and then I see the reaction from it. And it's fun to make and I'd like to do more, but then other things start to happen and then it gets pushed off. And it was one of those things that I went into because I wanted to talk about other things, but I wanted to do it in a video format. And it didn't seem to do very well on the YouTube side of things. And again, it's like there's not much conversation there. And if I don't see a very warm reception to something that's a lot more difficult to make, because I didn't think it would be that hard to make, but I'll sit there with a camera and I'll have like 100 takes of random things that I'm trying to say, because I don't really script much, and it's hard for me to just get a thought out without it being jumbled up in like 50 different clips. So it was just a little bit too much effort to put together for what it was actually doing on YouTube. Sometimes you can put out videos that kind of hurt your numbers. And I'm conscious of that to a point. And then the live streams again, it's like now we're to a point where it's like, if I want to talk about something, I can do it in a live stream. If I want to answer a question, if somebody's got those particular questions, I'll answer them in a live stream or something like that. I need to start clipping my live streams down to shorter videos, because there's a lot of opportunity to take a long format like the live stream we're having now, or a lot of them that I've done, and try and set yourself up for like a handful of videos where they can do really well on the exposure side of things, and they were actually made in a really, really easy long format way.
Right. That's my one of my weak points. Obviously, is cutting these up. I don't cut these up. I always want to cut them up. I did it the first few, but like it's one of those time things I'm going to eventually. And realistically, right? Who's gonna not who, but a lot more people are gonna be able to find and watch like a digestible portion of this on a topic than a 2-hour. I don't know where to listen to what, but. On the flip side of that, I enjoy like Joe Rogan's podcast, obviously, for the last like decade. His are long form. Yes, people do clip them up, but like realistically, I listen to the whole damn thing. But so it has, it obviously has its pros though to get out there.
Yeah, and he does the clip side of things too, but it's like, I'm sure he's got somebody doing it. You have to like kind of listen through the whole thing, and then you've just made like right now a 2-hour piece, and you got to section 2 hours, and then it takes you longer than that, because you're not just you got to put it in its own video. You got to write a description, a title, add a thumbnail. And then you got to write a title, description, thumbnail again. So it's like you're creating a lot more work for yourself when you're doing it, but the opportunity there is really, really cool. We all should go in on a video editor or something, I think. I'm
in. Somebody that just clips up our content. And
right, because I think God, that's not a bad idea, because like I have some work that I would need done, but I don't have enough to really pay full time for somebody to do all the time. But I know it's like there's like a collective of people right now that is just like maybe we could probably pull together and get a video editor at this point to clip stuff.
Sean Roach from Window Tint Warriors mentioned that he has one. So
oh yeah, dude, he's been putting out awesome videos. He so I had back in the day, those were the types of videos that I wanted to make. They're like expertly produced. They're down to the point. They're like the focus, the stabilization. It's like you want to do a dream camera setup in a cool spot. That's what I had in mind. That's really, really cool what he's doing over there. So
let me throw a random idea at you. You're the man to talk to about this idea, I feel like.
Okay.
We have the Window Film Convention not coming up in September, or whatever it is, probably not coming up. Hopefully it's coming up, but maybe it's not. Now,
okay.
Now, you know, when you think about things through coronavirus lenses, and
Uh-huh.
I can't help but think like, okay, what would be an equivalent to a competition, a tint competition that would be through the internet? And there's a lot of barriers in your way there, because people don't even like the tint competition when it was like in person and very clear as to and so on. So now we're going into a whole different realm. But let me just stick with me for a minute.
Uh-huh.
I was thinking that maybe it could be done tournament style. So
Yeah.
we can't have, I wouldn't imagine 30 people all tinting a car at the same time on screens. But I
Yeah.
was thinking, what if it was like 10 or 20 entries into it, and you go tournament style, one versus the other. Now, the next thing becomes judging. First thing that I think of is like judging. Like, how do you judge it? And you're
Yeah.
obviously not going to be able to judge in the traditional ways that you may judge a window. However, there's still aspects of judging that you can judge. Like, you can see the edge of a film on a video. You can
Yeah.
time how long it took to get it done. You can observe technique.
Yeah.
So do you think tournament style
Uh-huh.
through the internet could potentially be something? Because I think of it almost like basketball or something. You're not getting all the teams playing at once. This isn't a Royal Rumble. But I want to see, one team play against the other team. I may want to see Matt, or like, I don't know, I may want to see a tint company go against a rival tint company or something like that, and
Yeah.
judge it based on those terms. Do you think there's any legs to that thought?
I think there is. I think it'd be fun. I funny enough actually talked to Sean about this before for a little bit, and then totally got distracted with some other things. I figured out some way to at least handle the technical side with like a live streaming video feed that goes hand in hand with my with GoPro streaming. So if you can grab one of those, the 7 or the 8. I actually have a way to, I could provide somebody with a code, like a link, an RTMP link, and then they could send the video feed to one destination as long as they have a halfway decent Wi-Fi signal. So all they have to worry about is literally a phone and a GoPro, and then they can like put it on their head and do the whole thing or whatever. I mean, I guess the other thing would be like maybe having somebody hold like a camera, but that's where it gets a little challenging. But I at least figured out that portion of it. I think it would be more of an exciting thing for like the face. No, it'd be okay on YouTube for the people that have the channels for when they're in it. But it would be a cool thing to see on. I could see it be doing a little bit better on Facebook. I think,
Right.
like
Because
posted in the groups and stuff like that.
yeah, yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I
The
Go
the
ahead.
the challenge is just like the judging. So if you can get some
Right.
basic rules, and if people can actually do it in the spirit of fun,
Right.
then I think it would be really cool. As long as we have like, because I think you'd somewhat have to be on like an honor system a little bit. There's some people that take it super personally very quickly, and like,
Well,
I don't know.
I think the key is to think of it through. So, like, I feel like there's some confusion with the tint off, where some people understand that it's a tint competition based on the rules that they put in place. But then you have
Uh-huh.
another group of people who feel like it is a bad representation of a contest that's going to determine the best tinter in the world. It's not going to determine the best tinter in the world.
No,
It's
not by a
not
long
like
shot.
basketball is not going to determine the best athlete in the world. This is a set group of rules, and based
Hmm.
on how they're running their competition, you may win their competition. It doesn't mean that you are now the best in the world at everything and every aspect of it. So I feel like if you look at it through those terms, we're not trying to determine who's best through a video. We're trying
Yeah.
to have a competition through a video.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's definitely a ton of logistics that have to be worked out.
But Sean just
But
commented. He said lots of logistics would need to be organized. Funny to say.
there would be, because the technical side, because like the problem I think that would make it more difficult is just, I mean, I guess if you have somebody that could hold a phone and just stream in live
So okay,
through like a video.
you mail them an iPad. that has cell service already paid for it on it, and you mail them like a so they can connect to their internet or use that service, and you mail them a tripod for that, and you give them basic instructions to how many feet back, and right. I mean, you basically have to supply them with all, like, supply the contestants with everything they're going to need.
Yeah,
To
yeah,
do
you'd
it.
have to supply everybody with the things that they need, and then they'd have to make time for the space, and then they'd also have to have like some similar vehicle. And I think the vehicle would also be a tough thing to organize too, because you need people on like a similar playing field.
So, okay,
Yeah.
for the vehicle, Enterprise Rent-A-Car will drop off the vehicle to you. So we just basically, that's like a 1 day, like maybe $50
Okay,
per
that would help.
contestant expense. And we could probably get, like, everybody's got a Ford Fusion or like a Chevy Cruze in their lineup as far as like rental vehicles. So I feel like you find the most commonly used, or like Ford Mustang, the most commonly used rental vehicle across their entire fleet. That becomes the vehicle, and you have to
Uh-huh.
arrange it, right?
Yeah.
There's the
So
vehicle.
okay, so that's a good point. So if that works, that takes care of the vehicle. The the experience of the live stream portion of it. So setting an
Betting.
iPad,
There should be
that
betting involved. I think
would
that.
it. Well, would it be better to have a camera stationary and let them do their thing, or would it be better to like, because there's the two ways to do it. It's literally you have the, I guess, the stationary camera or you have the head camera. Which is a better
Both. I
option?
think you need both. So I think there has to be a stationary camera, and they have to use the head camera, because if they have a stationary and a head, yeah, I don't see the reason they would need a second person to be there. I feel like it's still a one-man operation. They set up their one camera, the stationary one, they put their head one on, they do their thing, and then there's somebody or a couple people who are like commentating the whole thing,
Yeah.
right?
There's so many pieces to this. Handling a multi-camera setup. So with a GoPro, you can have it stream to a particular place, and you'd have to have a software on the tablet that would be able to do the same thing. And you could, and you just have to cross your fingers that both work.
So okay, the way I did like the town hall meeting one was like like the live stream, we had like 6 people on here, which used a lot of computing power, which I probably wasn't adequately set up for, but obviously we could prepare in advance. But basically, it was just connecting on Skype, and because you can connect multiple users on Skype, or let's say like Zoom, and then you can import that in, doesn't that kind of take care of like camera angles? I could pick camera angle, like the person running the event, I guess. You need more
You
people on the outside, like running it, but you don't necessarily need people there, right?
Yeah. Okay. So that would handle, but that's for stationary. A head cam, you couldn't get GoPro to necessarily stream to Skype. That would be the challenge.
Okay, so the GoPro starting to figure out the little barriers, but I mean,
That
I feel like you'll have this figured out by tomorrow. So, so I'm
My
not
mind
like that
always
worried
keeps
about that.
going, so I might on some level the because that was always the challenge with me running a live stream. Period was like, yeah, I can stream directly to YouTube, but I don't get like, it's just one camera, one feed, and then if the GoPro goes out, then there's nothing to switch back to. There's no way to handle that.
Right.
So taking the GoPro and figuring out how to get it to actually run a live feed to my computer. I don't know if you saw my recent video that finally explained how to do that to OBS, but this was a son of a bitch to figure out. And then there was like, I was the person, I think I was the person to do it. Because there wasn't anything as far as I could find on YouTube explaining how to do it.
Right.
Like as far as I could tell, I was the first person that figured out how to send an RTMP feed through the Nginx server to be picked up on OBS and be able to use it as a camera.
Yeah.
I couldn't so that was
You
just
might be
an
one of 3 people in the window film industry that knows what you just said.
Yeah,
Like,
that's okay. That's the level of shit that you need to do to make something like this work sometime. But then because of that, there was actually a developer that reached out to me and wrote his own program to make it easier. So at least on a local network now, it's a little bit easier. It needs some improvement, but yeah, oh man, it's
feel like
very early with some of this stuff.
Tint. I mean, Sean suggested Sling Studio. which
I'm gonna look that up.
so I've used Sling. I have Sling Studio. I used it for a personal podcast I did a year or so ago. It is definitely easy to use, but I didn't use it for this because maybe it's a little overkill because I don't really need multiple camera angles as I was doing before. But this is easier. Like I feel like Sling Studio is not the easiest thing out there. I feel like you almost remove a layer. I don't know. Point being,
Oh,
tint.
so it
Go ahead.
Sling's like an attachment system, right? Where it's redirecting HDMI feeds.
And what was
That
nice about Sling Studio was you could hook up a camera. You could hook up, let's say, like 4 cameras
yeah.
wirelessly to Sling Studio, and like that's game changing because now you don't even have wires, which is pretty freaking cool.
That is really really cool. But that's again for people with DSLRs. That's
Right.
not taking it down to this form factor, which actually makes it workable as far as like just you some GoPros have the HDMI attachment, but it's a block. They haven't released the module for the 8 yet, but for the 7 it was an extra block, and then you'd actually have to figure out a way to power it and then like
Right.
have it all on a head mount. So it'd be a bit much.
Yeah.
But
I think there's
yeah,
something to it, to the idea, because look, at the end of the day, it kind of sounds like a pain in the ass, and it kind of sounds like it's easy to say like, well, how are we going to judge it and so on. But at the end of the day, those are things that like we could figure it out, and then once it's there, if there's a tint tournament, top 20 tinters enter this tournament, and you go, tournament style, you come down to 10, then those go against those, and it's over the course of a month or whatever it is, and at the end they win a freaking transit van, or they win like some lifetime supply of something, or like there's a big first, second, and third prize. I mean, who's not going to watch this? And then if you add in trash talking between the tinters while they're tinting, you have a live trash talking, and then you add in the ability for people who are watching to bet on who's going to win. I mean, who would go to the tint off after that?
if you want to put stakes that high, like for what could be, then yeah, okay, yeah. Now you got people watching. You have a lot more going on. I'd be 100% down with working out what the technicals would need to be for something like that, because I have a good way to do it with a GoPro. Adding in something else shouldn't be too more challenging then at that point, and then having a set of instructions that somebody has to follow to at least like send the feeds out, because they're not going to know how to do, and they shouldn't have to know how to do all the little technicals. That should all be handled at a main station, and then just send them out the equipment to like mess around with or whatever. I think
Go ahead.
I think that part could be done. So if you can just get enough of like a ground, a baseline, and then kind of figure things out, like just do like one for fun maybe, and then put something with more stakes on it. Yeah, that would be really, really cool.
I mean, to put things into perspective, if you're display, okay, if you're competing at the tint off, how much do you remember off the top of your head how much it is as a competitor to compete?
Yeah, it was like $400 I think to compete or something like that.
So you're talking about tinters willing, just tons of tinters willing to spend $400 just to be able to compete. So you talk about, right there, that's an $8,000 budget at the same cost. I'm just saying, if you're entering in this competition, that's worth of entries if we were talking dollar to dollar. And then you talk
Right.
about the companies who are at the tint off there to display, like have a booth or whatnot. You're talking about the smallest booths up to the largest booths, including just a round number, a kind of a guesstimate for travel costs and display and getting the booth and so on. Like that can range between like 10 and maybe $40,000-$50,000 for what, when you see a vendor at the tint off sitting there, they've spent between probably 10, maybe 8 to 40, $50,000 all in for that competition. And you're talking, I know it's apples to oranges in a way, but you're talking about enormous dollar amounts that, not to say that's what's going to translate into this tint tournament, but what I'm saying is, what are you getting there? 300 people, 400 people, 500 people seeing your company? Whereas on the internet, we all know that we just talked about numbers that far surpass that reach.
Yeah. So The one part that's hard to translate is like, so the tint off isn't necessarily about the competition. It's about going and interacting with other people in
Sure.
person. I think that's the hard part that you're not going to get on the internet side of
Well,
things. So you,
let's keep going here. Now you could have,
yeah,
there could be like, you can have that. Look, I know what you're saying. It's not apples to apples, but what I think to that is like, okay, if there's a lobby area, like a Zoom chat lobby area, and you're able to have group conversations and then even have private conversations. I mean, I know now we're kind of really getting out there, but if
yeah.
we're talking about the future and we're talking about getting ahead of it,
Oh,
and I'm not Vinny.
oh,
Vinny commented,
please don't tell me this just
"No, you're
died.
good.
Oh, okay,
You're
cool.
good." Vinny just commented, "Who cares more about bringing our industry together, not getting the tint, and not letting the virus win?" So what Vinny, I guess, is saying is, who cares more about not letting the virus win and getting like? I'm not saying this is going to be instead of the tint off. I'm simply saying
Yeah.
the tint off may be delayed this year, and regardless, why not bring another? It's another. It's not a
This
replacement. It's very
no,
different.
this is like esports for window tint. Like
Exactly.
what can we actually pull together to make something like this happen? I like your ambition behind this because you've already thought about this a fair
I
amount.
have been. And I kind of try to throw it at people and see like, well, and who's willing to who likes
We
it
should
enough to keep talking about it, and let's maybe get it going. I don't know.
No, yeah, yeah, you should have messaged me about this because like this is the type of ideas that I'll throw at Patrick as far as like content creation and like what can we. It's like we talk for hours about YouTube strategy and just different live streams. And it's like I don't know how much time I spent trying to research RTMP, and I didn't have anybody to really talk to that could relate to this whatsoever. So. Yeah, I mean, dude, you're talking to the guy that literally has set up a window tint live stream studio, so we can try and make something happen as far as this. I think there's enough there that we could definitely at least try it out and see what happens. If you put real stakes on it, so you figure out a baseline program of a time frame, ways that you could judge it, and then you put like real stakes that I think would get some more people watching overall. I would say that as far as the competition goes at the event, it's like so. That's the challenge, is trying to make it interesting enough for just regular people to watch or people that are in the industry to watch. Being that it's at the comfort of your phone or wherever you're sitting makes it a little bit more accessible to people because, like you said, yeah, you're taking all this cool stuff and you're literally walling it off. It's like I technically can't have somebody filming me when I'm competing at the thing. Like that's insane. Like this thing should be, it literally should be broadcasted just in general to like their own pages or something like that for the event. Because I would get more people in the next year, or even flying in last minute to try and see the last little bit of competition,
Right.
or just to see some more vendors or something. So I don't
mean,
know.
I even think like it's wild because we're talking about window tinting and but like if you're familiar with like UFC Fight Pass, like you can see all the old fights. You pay a membership and like you can watch all those old fights. And like
Okay.
as far as like the window film convention goes, I feel like if you don't go to it, you don't see anything. You might see a short little interview with a couple different vendors, and then
Yeah.
kind of like standard like questions and so what do you think about this? And what do you have new? And blah blah blah. But like you're not experiencing that event, and I just feel like like you said, like it's insanity that you can't technically have somebody video you. I bring up like an instance where I know somebody was trying to be like live stream from the last one, and they were told they can't. And like that sort of thing, like I feel like, look, if people could go back and watch previous conventions and tint offs and competitors and tinting, people would be watching it. Simple as
Yeah.
that. People loved it. Like there's a void of content. There's not enough content in this industry. So while there's a void, I just feel like that just becomes an opportunity, and whatever.
Yeah.
I want to do it.
Yeah, I know. So Sean definitely messaged me about this idea before. So I think we'd have to get him involved too for
100%.
sure. And like
1,000%. Anybody that's like already a little technical has to be one of the first 20 or
him,
whatever's in there.
Patrick for sure. I think yeah, like I maybe we could have like a almost a content creators tint off or something. Uh, in a way to at least try and get it going and see at least like there's enough there for like a proof of concept to at least like put it out there and see what happens. And then once you work out the technicals of just trying to get some going, branch it out a little bit more with some stakes and then see what happens. Because yeah, I mean the tin off, I'm sure when that started it was pretty small, and then it's just been going year after year after year. So yeah, there in this day and age we could probably put something together, and it's pretty low cost considering like you're not renting out an event or something like that to make it work. But
right, you're not paying the overhead of the event. You're not paying. Nobody's paying for airplane like flights. Nobody's paying for hotels. You're not transporting your family and so on.
Yeah,
it's different.
Uh-huh.
Good way.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Now I'm thinking about like who you could get involved, and then they have like the people that have their own little team behind them. I think that's where you could really start to see some traction out of this. I think that would be pretty cool because everybody have their own little base. It'd be cool.
Yeah. Well, we have gone past the 2-hour mark, and
I got to check on my wife.
and I guess it might be a good place to wrap this up.
Yeah, actually, I should probably wrap it up. I could go on and on for a lot longer. But yeah, I actually should probably get back inside and check on her.
Please, let's do it again really soon. I sincerely, thank you for doing this today. It's an honor to be streaming with you. You're enormous inspiration, and I really mean it when I say the platinum standard in streaming and in tinting, because even just the level of your audio and video is just like next level.
Thank you.
It's
like when you put so much effort into stuff, it's like, I don't know, you feel like when I make something that I feel is really, really cool, but it's been targeted in such a niche and like not a lot of people understand it. So like, I appreciate it. I mean, to see also you with like the number of live streams that you're doing consistently, it's like it doesn't matter what's going on necessarily. It's like you're going to bring another one on board. It's really, really cool because like I don't know, I'm obsessive over some of this to the point where I think it might be a little bit unhealthy, but my mind keeps going. I'm always trying to push this, what can be done for window tinting, because I think it can be vastly different than it is now. And just the way that with social media, technology, and mixing the two together, it's like you don't necessarily know what it can bring until you actually see it. But to see you being one of the first, I think, being the first one of the real tint businesses that like in this industry that is bringing content, doing something different than most people would just not do. It's cool to see. So yeah, whatever you want to collab on, like, I mean, we can make something happen. That would be immensely cool. It's been a long time coming.
Tint Tournament 2020 or 2021.
Yeah, we could probably make something happen this year. I think like, especially with this, I think the technology is finally caught up a little bit enough to make something happen. So
cool. Well, thank you again. It was an absolute pleasure. Thanks for everybody for watching. Yeah, man. Thanks everybody that came out. It was super cool having you all. So those that hung into this last little bit. there's a group of them. So thank you everyone. Yeah, Matt, and we'll see you on the next one next Tuesday. Yep. All right. I'll see ya.